Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tarda Zone Talks. How are you all doing? I hope you are all doing well on this fine weekend. We've got a bit of cloud cover here, but the sun is shining. Thankfully, it's not too warm because, it's just, I don't know what it is. Over the years, I just haven't been able to tolerate the heat, but there you go. But yeah, it's a nice day. It's a nice day, and I hope to find you all well. And we got a member in the chat and Problem Bing. How are you? Hey, Noel and Chris can't stay long. I've got to go, but I hope you all have a great stream. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Really appreciate that. But yeah, we are here to talk about Strange New Worlds, and obviously, Star Trek is a controversial topic, conversation nowadays. But I've been watching Strange New Worlds, and my guest has been watching Strange New Worlds, and I thought it was worthy. It was worthy of a discussion to talk about because I've seen a lot of opinions on the show, and let's just say it's the usual, quite mixed. But we're here, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to give you our opinion. Obviously, for people out there, it's just an opinion. So, if you have your own, that's perfectly fine. But I will just say before we start this stream, obviously, when you do hear our opinions and people give their opinions in the chat, don't bash anybody for their opinion. Remember, all opinions are welcome, and we must respect each other's opinions. So I just wanted to make that clear. So let's bring on me guest. And it's a pleasure to have him on. As you know, he hasn't been streaming much lately, but it's great to have him here. It's the one and only Cultivated Media Incorporated. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone. And before people ask, no, I have not returned to YouTube. That channel is permanently retired, but I do live streams under this name. I haven't done a live stream in, God, 6 months maybe. But this is my return. So I'm not gone completely. I will live stream surf, and today we're this might be a first for us, Noel. After like 5 years, we are going to be talking about something positively, generally, that we both agree on in a positive way.
Yeah,
And I think and we got a couple people watching, but I think we've been gone for so long, people have forgotten who we are. But yeah, I'm Chris. I have a little puppy. She's going to be 3 months old on July 7th. Little baby, her name is Sky. She's a black lab. Before we did the stream, we did a play session so I could tuck her out a little bit. So she has to go in her crate while Dad's at the computer, or she'll eat the house. But I tired her out, so she's sleeping. But if she gets up, when she wakes up, because she's little, it's kind of, this is like history repeating itself. When she has to tinkle, I have to take her out quickly, or I end up with a tinkle accident. So I'm hoping she's going to sleep through the stream, but we'll see. But yeah, that's my story. So I am Chris from Cultivated Media Incorporated, and I discuss horror movies, the adventures of Sky, the black lab puppy, and things that are fun, because to be honest, spending all my time on stuff that I hate just ain't for me anymore. 5 years was enough. So how you doing, Noel?
Not doing too bad, not doing too bad. I agree with you. Look, as I said, I've been saying to our subscribers lately, we've done airtime 5 years. We said all we had to say, um, and that chapter is done and over with. And as I said, and as you've rightly said, we want to kind of focus on more positive things, and we do actually have some positivity around Star Trek. Well,
I'm
its
as
name
shocked as you
anyway.
are.
Um, yeah, I mean, look, everybody knows my history with Kurtzman Trek. Okay, and here it is. I couldn't get past the fifth episode, I think it was, of season one of Discovery. I watched Picard season one, I think, on this channel. We reviewed it. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Oh yeah, no, I was
Um,
part of those.
Lower Decks as well. I think me and Lee. I think we. I don't know how
Actually,
many
didn't we
episodes.
do? I think we did. Didn't we do Picard season one? Was that here? Or was that Rabbi's channel? Or I
I
think
think
we
that
went
was
back and forth.
Rabbi's. I think that was Rabbi's. Yeah, that was Rabbi's channel.
Yeah,
We
'cause
didn't do
I
it
didn't.
here. Yeah, yeah,
I didn't make any videos on it until it was over. But yeah, I
yeah.
remember doing weekly streams on it. But I couldn't remember if it was here or there. But I think it was there.
Yeah, it was there. We did Lower Decks, myself and Lee. We tried to do Lower Decks, but
Watched
we
5
couldn't
minutes.
even. But we couldn't even get past. I don't know what episode it was. What was the episode again? How many episodes did we watch, Lee? Anyway, so my record with Kurtzman Trek and me relationship with it has been great. Now, as you all know, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, like Chris is, and a big fan of the original series. And I did like Next Gen, have to say, and of course we got the movies and all of that. And then obviously JJ came in, and yeah,
Moved
it's
on it.
gone downhill since then. Let's just say,
No,
but
either no, there's downhill. So things can go downhill. This was, remember that Simpsons episode with the ambulance and Homer in the mountain falling
yeah,
down the mountain, like the
yeah,
first season.
yeah,
This was that. This was the TV version of that without the comedy.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I agree. It's been pretty dire. Look, if you're a Star Trek fan, you've been suffering just like Doctor Who fans and Star Wars fans, right? But this show, Discovery,
Oh no,
Strange New
okay,
Worlds. Sorry,
sacrilege.
right? But Discovery is, let's just say, Discovery. I haven't watched the past, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I've watched the episodes that I've watched. I haven't. I haven't bothered with it because it wasn't my cup of tea. Right now, I have watched Star Trek Prodigy, right, which is the Nickelodeon show,
Yeah, I
right, with
haven't.
Captain Janeway hologram. Now I gotta say something here, right? I even wrote about it up on Twitter, right? I absolutely love that show, right? Now, I'll tell you why these two shows, Strange New Worlds and Prodigy, for me is up there, right? There's one glaring thing that I've noticed, right? Alex Kurtzman doesn't write an episode in any of those shows. Now, his name is on it as an executive producer and the creator,
Name
right?
only.
But name only. He is not writing these shows. And that, for me, is the big difference here, and why I think these shows, now this is just my opinion, why I think these two shows in particular are doing very well with fans and obviously the general audience that's come in, because obviously these shows now are aimed at a wider audience, and that's how you become successful, isn't it? But that's the thing that I've noticed, because every episode I've watched, see who's writing it, who's directing, and he has no involvement. And for me, I think that's I don't know, if I was Alex Kurtzman, right, and I was looking how well those two shows are doing, I would seriously question myself, because he's done a terrible job.
Well,
And I'm sorry.
he wrote the story or co-wrote the story for the first episode. Although He wrote it with Akiva Goldsman, who is the other Antichrist, and then written with Jenny Lumino. I'm not sure who she is. So I think it's mainly, and I don't think he wrote it. To be honest, there's things in that episode. There's no way those two would have written. They would never have acknowledged that there's multiple sides to an argument. But I think technically, they had to put his name on there because if you're co-creator of a show, your name kind of has to be on the first episode, or you didn't actually create it. I don't think he wrote it. And then every episode after that, he had nothing to do with. Now it's in rumor territory, and I don't really report on rumors much, but I think in this rumor, I think there's some truth. We've had, and it's the same thing with Star Wars, which I've disowned. But the rumor is Kurtzman and Akiva Goldsman, because they're locked into the contract. Their names are on the show. But
Right.
after the CBS Paramount merger, and after the disaster that was, everything, and I think it was I think most of this, from what I remember, the timeline went into production after Picard was well underway, and I think they saw what they actually did to Picard in season 2. So the rumor is they have no control over this, because keep in mind it's a different company now. It was previously produced under CBS. This is now CBS Paramount under the merger.
Yeah.
And Star Trek has to be successful, or their streaming service, and CBS Viacom, or whatever the technical name is now, is going to go under. So this they had, and their every Star Trek show that they've had has been a dumpster fire. So I now I'm saying that it's a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. But the proof is on the screen. They are not running this show. This is so far removed from Star Trek Discovery and the dumpster fire of Picard, and I expected to hate this. I figured I'd like Pike. But I figured everything else was going to be crap. There were actually 2 episodes, actually no, 3 episodes had aired before I even watched it. I had that little interest, and then it was Saturday or something, and I'm just bored, so I'm like, I'll just check out Strange New Worlds, and then I'm watching it, and then you see the themes going through, and there's a lot of Kurtzmanisms, which become diminished as the show goes on. But in the first episode, there's Pike giving what I will call a real Star Trek speech, not a poor Michael Burnham speech like we've had on that other show.
Oh, that speech was amazing, man.
Well, that's Star Trek. That's the first glimmer of Star Trek we've had, because it admitted there are 2 sides to an argument, and if you can't come to some kind of agreement, you're going to destroy yourselves. Which we haven't had that on Star Trek since 2005. Because the other way, and God, the worst was, I didn't finish Picard season 2. I think it was episode 6 that I checked out. But that's Kurtzman Trek, where it's not only were you being lectured to, you were being smashed in the face with a sledgehammer with some of the most politically partisan bullshit I've ever seen on TV. And this is the complete opposite. It does have problems, but they're minor in comparison. And the problems are to do with the new show. There's 2 characters that need to go. But some of the nitpicks I've heard about this show really they're minor. And I'll go back to you, Noel, so I don't take over the whole thing.
No, go on. It's fascinating here. And go on. Keep going.
Well, that's and there are a lot of people that came out and criticized the first episode, and then they stopped, and some are just still going on. But some of the there's been videos out there. I'm like, some are still going on the 25% different thing. You are aware that contract no longer stands, right? That was when CBS and Paramount, although being under the same umbrella company, were 2 completely different organizations. They have merged. They're the same company now. Star Trek is all under one ownership. Yeah. So, no, the 25% different thing doesn't stand anymore. And this irked me a little bit when I was seeing this, where they're criticizing the sets.
Yeah.
Now, two points that I want to bring out here. One, Star Trek as a show, those sets were designed more than half a century ago, actually rapidly approaching 60 years ago.
Mm.
You can have something like Star Trek Continues, which I think did a brilliant job. The idea behind Star Trek Continues was to finish the 5 year mission, so do the last 2 years of the original 5 year mission. And their idea was to replicate it exactly, which is fine for a niche audience. But this is not a niche audience. If you tried basing a mainstream show with those sets, most regular people now, especially since classic Star Trek is so long ago, and we've got generations that know nothing about Star Trek,
Mm.
it would have been laughed out of the park. But here's another thing I want to bring up, which is this is another change from really everything Star Trek until Strange New Worlds. When you look at the Abrams Abomination films, the Enterprise, other than just some basic aesthetics and design concepts, bore no resemblance to the Enterprise, any Enterprise, whether it be the movies or the TV show.
I agree.
You have when you came in when Discovery came in, I think one of the first things I noticed when they were doing publicity stills, before we even saw how god awful the show was, is how there was no effort whatsoever in terms of design concept to fit it into that era. But
Mm.
here's what I have to say about the Enterprise sets for really debuted on Disgracery, but on the show there are you could tell there are attempts to bring it into 2022
Mm.
because you have there's no way around it. To make it successful, you have to redesign those sets, but some of the design concepts come directly from the show. And if you look at the sets, it's a it's a in some ways it's a meshing of certain design concepts from the original series and certain design concepts from the retrofit.
Mm.
But if you look at even if you look at engineering, just as an example, you could see that there are similarities to the original series. It's how it would be designed today. Same thing with the bridge. In this case, you've got the red rails. The red was the theme on the original bridge. They've brought that back. The basic concept of the consoles is similar.
Yeah.
And I saw some people, they did the shuttlecraft. I'm like, well, it doesn't look like the shuttlecraft. I'm like, but no, actually, if you look at those pictures of the shuttlecraft, the basic design concepts go back to Galileo 7. So you have to provide, or you have to allow for some creative licensing to a certain degree when you're bringing something that's very old back and you're trying to modernize it. The way Abrams did it was completely wrong because it was unrecognizable. What not Kurtzman has done, because he has very little control over this, is taken concepts from the original Enterprise and modernized them. And I love the way they've designed the ship. And even if you
Yeah.
look at the external ship, you look at the nacelles, everything else, it is the Enterprise from the original series, just again redesigned, updated. The Enterprise from the movies, good God, it was ugly as hell and barely matched. Other than it had two nacelles in the back, barely. It barely matched. So that's the first thing to get out of the way right away. It's some of the criticisms I'm seeing, and you can take these criticisms the way you want, but I can understand, but from my perspective, I just don't see them as valid. I think this is the only way they could have gone about doing it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, look, I love the ship design. I love the interior of the ship. Captain Pike's room is deadly. It's got a fire in the center of the room. It's look, as we said, this is a perfect no. But you can tell one thing about these writers and the people behind the set designs, and obviously, the people that are working on the show, that there is love for this. You could tell, and you are right. I mean, you cannot go. I mean, some of the criticism, again, I like you, I can understand it, but I would say, I'm just going to say it, right? Because you know me, I don't hold back. I just think, you know, people are just looking for something to complain about. And I do think with some fans, though, they want, as you said, you can't design the Enterprise like it was designed back in the 60s and put it on screen now, right? Even if you updated it a little bit, right, it still wouldn't look right. You've got to modernize these shows to a certain aspect, and as you said, you have to allow for a little bit of room, leeway. But I do feel that some fans, just like some of the Star Wars fans, they're just a stickler for every single detail. So yeah, it does come across as giving out and moaning all the time. But I can understand it to a certain extent. But there is like some of the some of the criticisms, as you've mentioned, and we won't mention who it is, but this 25% difference argument, as you said, is out the window. But again, there are some fans out there that are just complaining for the sake of complaining. And it's a shame, really, because if this show was given a chance, and if people went in with an open mind, I
Oh,
think they
hey,
would
hey,
really
Gobby. Sorry, I
enjoy.
just saw a Gobby guy stopped into the chat. Hey, my friend.
Oh yeah, Gobby Guy is a fan of Strange New Worlds as well. He's been doing reviews as far as I'm aware. He's been throwing them up. Afternoon, just popping in to say it's a great show, even with the issues. I love it. There you go. So again, look. It's not perfect. It does have its issues, right? And there's a couple of the cast members that Ballstreck doesn't like. For me, they don't bother me as much, but I can see where he's coming from. I have to be honest, but like the latest episodes, right? I won't give that away, but I was really, really on the verge of crying, man.
Well,
I tell
one of
you,
them was redeemed, sort of. Speaking of
it's
Belichick.
it's it's. I don't know, man. There's just I'm drawn to this show because I can see that the people behind it actually care about what they're doing. And even the stories, even though they've got a modern twist, the one thing that I love about this show, and I think Chris will agree with me here, even though these stories have a modern twist, they're like original Trek era episodes, stories.
Well,
Like it's very well done.
I think in some ways, Noel, this is uh, the closest we've actually had to the original series because if you look at the original series, and if you watch the episodes and watch them in production order, not broadcast order, because they actually make more sense in production order, which they don't even put that on the Blu-rays anymore. Um, but if you watch the original series, each episode was completely different tone, completely different feel.
Mm,
I don't think with newer Trek, with the Next Generation, I love the episodes, but there was largely a sameness to them.
mm,
And Deep Space Nine eventually, became a serialized show, so it's different there. You all know my thoughts on Voyager. And Enterprise, when it got good, also became serialized. But what I like about this show, and Star Trek, except for one-offs like the end of Deep Space Nine, a show that had already proven itself, Enterprise, which had to do something different by season three, because it was just dying, and in that case, it worked brilliantly. But Star Trek, it works best as an episodic show, but not just episodic, but a completely different vibe, a completely different feel to each episode. Where if
mm,
we look at the last two episodes, so well, we look at the last one, the Elysian Kingdom, which was a very lighthearted, generally until you get to the end and it becomes very serious, but a lighthearted episode. And I saw criticism for that. I'm like, this is Star Trek getting stupid. I'm like, no, it's actually in real Star Trek. it's a tradition to have that one off the wall, ridiculous, lighthearted episode of
Yeah,
the season. You started it with Shore Leave. In the second season, you had the Trouble with Tribbles. So no, actually, something like that is Star Trek, and it's a nice change of pace.
yeah.
And then you switch over to this week's episode, All Those Who Wander, which I think is probably my favorite episode of the show yet. Where one of the things that I always liked about old Star Trek, and just a theme that I always found interesting, is when you'd run into bad things that had happened to any ship that wasn't the Enterprise. Horrific things happened to, which is why it's like the only one left near the end, pretty much. But I love those episodes where like, oh, here's a twin of the Enterprise where something god awful has happened, and so we have that, and then it's this alien. It's like good aliens, so alien or aliens. It's got that vibe to it. Actually, it was a horror episode, which Star Trek hasn't done successfully. I think maybe since a handful of Next Generation episodes, because they didn't really do that on DS9, and Voyager was just sad. Yeah, some people are going to get mad at me for saying that.
I think this week's episode, Chris, I agree with you.
Well,
I
the
think
end, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but the end of this one,
oh
like
man,
you can predict, like on Disgracery and God Awful Picard, you could predict what was going on. I did not see that coming, and
no,
that's if on TV is predictable, and woke TV is predictable because we know where it's going. When you have non-woke TV, it's like you see that, you're like, holy shit. I'm like,
yeah,
damn.
man. I'm just gonna say I was gutted, but watch it for years ourselves. But I was gutted. Listen, this week's episode in particular, I've seen a lot of criticism for saying it was a cheap imitation of the movie Alien. Now I'm just going to say something here, right? Okay, it wasn't to me, and this is just my opinion. It wasn't a cheap imitation. It was a homage, and a lot of sci-fi shows do pay homage to other sci-fi shows, right? It happens all the time, right? Or sci-fi movies, they do something. This was done very well, right? This
I
could have
think it
went
was.
all bad, right? This could have been the episode that derailed the show, in my opinion, right?
Yep.
But they got the tone absolutely perfect. The acting was superb. I mean, the atmosphere, the build up, everything about it, and that ending, like Chris, I didn't see it coming, and I was gutted. And if you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah,
this episode was really doing horror, Star Trek doing horror. I agree with Chris. This
I think
this could have went.
it's like Night Terrors, which is one that I'm thinking of right now from the Next Generation, or Wolf in the Fold from the original series, which to this day I find scary as hell. It scared the living shit out of me when I was a kid. But it's I think it was an alien homage, but even like what I was touching on, this is also a homage to what the original series did, because you have the Doomsday Machine,
Exactly.
the uh, the Omega Glory, you have the Tholian Web, where you have and these were often some of the best episodes where this is what they were echoing, where it's like you find a sister ship of the Enterprise and something terrible has happened. And those are some of my favorite episodes. Like I said, when I was a kid, I loved seeing like, oh, this is how things could go really badly with the Enterprise. And this is, what. So we have little things like that. So I liked it. It was a homage to Alien, but it didn't overtake Alien. I don't even know if it was intentional. There are similar elements to it.
Yeah, and you
The
will see what the similar elements were. But look, again, it was. See, I don't know what fans. I'm kind of. I'm frustrated now because I kind of don't know what fans want. The show, we mightn't like change, right? But a show has to modernize itself whether we like it or not to sustain itself. Yes, we're not always going to like everything that they do, but I just don't get. For me personally, I just don't get all the hate for this latest episode or the show in general. Because for me, and I think Gobby and a few other people that have watched it, and yourself, Chris, will agree, every episode this has improved. That's the thing. You can see the improvement. You can see, you can see the growth. You know what I mean? You can see the character development. It's not, there's a lot of effort put in, and I think it shows. And I think that's why a lot of us are saying it's good, because we could see that the effort is put in. And that's all we've ever asked for. We just want something that's entertaining, that we can watch, have us at the edge of our seats. And I think this show right now is ticking all the boxes. And if you see the reaction between, the Orville, as you know, is running right now, and it looks like now after 3 seasons, people are finally starting to turn on the show.
See, I
But
haven't even watched this season yet.
but I won't get into that. That's a different topic, a different conversation to have. But and then I'm kind of right now. Lee, I think, said it in the chat right now. I think Strange New Worlds right now. After watching season 3 of the Orville, and listen, I like season 3, and I know there has been complaints by people, but I've enjoyed it. But I've enjoyed Strange New Worlds a lot more so far. Now, obviously, there's only been a few episodes of the Orville, but
the problem with
8
the
episodes
Orville,
into this show, and I think this show so far is far superior than season 3, and that's just my opinion right now.
the
Obviously,
problem with the Orville is you can't go 3.5 years between seasons. Yes, I know there are issues, but keep in mind that the last season finished more than a year before the thing of unknown origin that we can't mention came. But there was a novelty to the Orville, but the problem is that novelty has worn off. It's season 3. I don't know. I still have Disney Plus, because in Canada, Disney Plus is what Disney Plus and Hulu is in the United States. We get it all lumped into one thing. I want to watch it, but to be honest, like the excitement that I had for the Orville is kind of worn off, and if I watch it, I may go back into it. But I think the one thing that you're mentioning, and I think that an important thing to talk about, is the thing that surprised me, in some cases really surprised me, was the cast. And I think Anson Mount, I think we all knew, like, he was like the guy oozes charisma. He was the only good thing, the only watchable thing about Star Trek Discovery, and he was so far beyond anybody else on that show. It was actually kind of painful to watch him act against everyone else. But even I find on this show, he's taken it up a notch. Like, he is a Star Trek captain.
yeah.
Whereas Michael Burnham is not a central character. And unfortunately, Picard isn't either. But he's what I like what they've done with him. He's not playing Pike as Jeffrey Hunter played him, because Jeffrey Hunter played him as a very kind of distant, cold character. Anson Mount is, it's Pike in name only. It's completely the opposite. But there's in Star Trek, you have two different kind of captains. You have what I'll call the human captains and the authoritative captains. So an authoritative would be, real TNG Picard, not current Picard, Cisco, probably Janeway. And then you have what I'll call the human, more relatable captains, which you have William Shatner's Captain Kirk, Scott Bakula, and now you have Anson Mount. So it's you have to have a good central character, and they've gone back to this, which they didn't do on Disgracery, where the captain is your lead character and everything flows around him. And I think he's doing an amazing job. I think credit also has to go to Ethan Peck, who I used to, on my Disgracery reviews, when I was doing them, I referred to him as Imposter Spock. And I did not like his version of Spock on Disgracery.
He's brilliant.
It was off. But here you can tell, like he plays the character very differently now. Then you can tell that in the meantime, I think he actually looked at the criticism, and you can tell he's gone back and he's
stripped it back.
He's basing it off Leonard Nimoy, but giving his own twist on it now. And I can now buy him as Spock, where I bought him as a hipster loser on Discovery. That was one of the first things I noticed right away. Rebecca Romijn, I think they need to do a little bit more with her character, but they brought her in a little bit more as the series went on. But I think, she is basing her character off of the way Majel Barrett portrayed number one. And I think it's a good mesh, but great character, but more needs to be done with it.
Yeah.
I actually really like Dr. Mbenga. And
yeah.
Here's where I'm going to deflate one of the criticisms that keeps coming up. So we know there are continuity issues, and there are continuity issues in going back to the Next Generation. There's nitpickers guides, even in the original show, there are continuity issues. But I've discussed this with a few people on Twitter, but one, it's Dr. Piper is supposed to be CMO on Enterprise, and the other one is, it doesn't fit into canon with the original series. I'm like, well, actually, no, it does. Depending, they do have to address it at some point in the series, but keep in mind, the menagerie takes place. Well, the Pike part takes place before season 2 of Disgracery. And we know that because it's canonized into the show. And we know that Piper was elderly. He's probably retired. So it's highly likely that Mbenga, what did I say? Oh, Boyce. I have no idea what I'm doing. My brain hurts. Or Boyce. But it's highly possible that Mbenga came in and becomes chief medical officer. But then there's the contradiction. Well, okay, he's CMO, but a decade a little less than a decade now later, he's on the Enterprise, and he's no longer CMO because we see him in That Which Survives in A Private Little War. That could easily be written into canon, where obviously, McCoy is CMO 2 removed from Mbenga, if we want to put that into official canon. But it is possible that at some point he does something to get demoted, or he decides, you know what, I don't want to be CMO, I just want to be a regular doctor. Like that's something, it has to be explained, but that's something that and P.D. Rich says, Dr. Philip Boyce, but wasn't Piper Kirk's CMO before McCoy? Well, there is, and that can still go into canon, because it could be that Mbenga demotes himself or gets demoted and works just as a regular doctor under 2 doctors. That's entirely possible. But it's little things like that can be explained, but I think they need to explain them away. Just even as a throwaway line. I liked Hammer, Bruce Horak. I think Celia Rose Gooding, who plays Uhura. I hated Zoe Saldana's Uhura in the J. Abrams movie. She was pompous. She was unlikable. She was the definition of a Mary Sue. They've humanized Uhura. There are some arguments to be made for there being some Mary Sue-isms here, but I don't think they're really taking that approach. What they're doing is she's portrayed as somebody who's very gifted, but this isn't like a Ray scenario where she has self-doubts. She doesn't really want to be there. And unlike, building her up saying, no, you're the best ever, Spock says, well, if you don't think you should be here, then there are many people that would like to be here.
Exactly, so, yeah.
And that's not Kurtzman. Kurtzman would have been, no, you're the best ever. You need to stay. I'm like, no. I'm like, okay, if you don't want to be here, then shove off. So I like the new portrayal. I think still different character than classic Uhura, but I like what they've done with this one, and I've liked that they've done away with the pomposity. Nurse Chapel, and actually, when I was discussing this on Twitter last night, somebody actually did bring a continuity issue, which I had completely forgotten about. And now they do have to explain this. The original Trek episode. It's maybe because I think it's been 20 years since I've watched this episode. I don't think since it first came out on DVD back in like 1999. But then and this was the first episode of Star Trek I ever watched, so I probably should have remembered it. But the episode "What Little Girls Are Made Of," where the reason that Chapel rejoined Starfleet was to find Dr. Corby. They have to work that into this show somehow, and that was probably because Kurtzman set up these characters originally and then lost control of them. But yeah, for Chapel, you have to find some way of working that in, and I'd miss that too. That's a pretty major canon hole. I'm not saying they couldn't, but it has to be addressed. Then there's the other two characters. So you got Ortegas, and for anyone who isn't, she's the one that showed up to Captain Pike's dinner in her sweatpants. I'm not saying recast the character. I'm saying you need to change the character because right now this character is annoying. And it was actually one person who actually, from the videos I've read, who actually seems to like new Star Trek is Dave Cullen, but he's highlighted the same things I'm going to highlight. She's borderline insubordinate with her little quips and things on the bridge. She's trying to be too edgy, which we don't need that anymore. This is Star Trek. The edgy could be, in legitimate storytelling. We don't need she's a Discovery character. But I'm not saying the actress is terrible because she can act, but you need to change it. You need to get rid of the forced edginess, and you need to, for the love of God, get rid of the bridge quips. Jesus Christ. And then there's the other one who has it is, but Chapel is hot. Oh yes. She is very pretty.
She is nice to look at. Yeah.
I'm not going to complain.
What I don't want to actually ruin it, but her and Spock are having her and Spock, their scenes to be quite interesting actually. I've enjoyed those scenes because they've been advising each other. Well, she's been advising him and stuff like that.
But they need to be careful what they do with that because again, you need to keep this as close to canon as you can. Obviously, Chapel and Spock, they have a friendship. The romance or the fact that she loves him, he doesn't really love her, has always been intimated. But they can only go so far with it because it has to line up.
Yeah, exactly.
The original series, and there's no indication that they ever had physical relationships. So I like what they're doing, but again, and this is the problem when you're doing a prequel, there are limits, and there's only so far you can go with certain things, and you have to maintain it within canon. And then the other one, although this character did get a little bit better this week, but I'm not going to spoil things. But Noonien Singh, La'an, she's the security chief, and I think they deliberately they change her character slightly as it goes through. But at the beginning, my God, unlikable as hell. Just like not fun, just chip on your shoulder. I'm like, no, we don't need that edginess.
Yeah,
you got that edginess on Disgracery, STD, and everybody hated it. Like I said, make the edginess. The thing about Star Trek, and this is one thing that not Kurtzman has brought back, is Star Trek is a positive show. Disgracery and Star Trek toilet paper are not positive. They're depressing. They are gloomy. They are partisan. They are everything opposite of what Gene Roddenberry liked. Star Trek is, it has its interesting arcs, and I guess it did veer off with Deep Space Nine, but the positivity remained. Where this is lost with Disgracery and toilet paper. They've lost that positivity where it's humanity has evolved. So I think a character like Noonien Singh being all negative and edgy and so forth, when you're trying to portray the future positively the way Star Trek always did, I don't think that's needed. But the thing I have is it's just annoying. Like she's just unpleasant. I'm like, and not unpleasant in a good way, just not fun to watch. But they have improved it somewhat, and they've made T'Pring almost a regular character or a regular recurring character. Again, you have to be careful there because they were Spock and T'Pring were obviously not close in Amok time, uh, so that needs to be brought back a little bit. So a lot of the problems are related to the fact that this is a prequel and you have to modernize it, but it still has to fit in with the original show. But unlike Disgracery, which could have been 100 years after the Next Generation, they are trying to fit it into the mold. I think it would have been better had they gone 100 years in the future, but they didn't. But what they're doing generally works. Generally. Oh yeah, and what about that? That word? I don't know if YouTube is censoring you. So
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Oh no, that's the helmsman. Yeah, that she's the edgy one. She's the one where they need to change things. Or
Yeah, she's not a bad actress. It's just she just comes across as. I just don't like the like. When she's talking to the captain and he tells her to basically warp speed. She'll come back with some fucking like edgy bleeding comeback, and it just doesn't. That's the one thing I will say. There's at the start. My problem with this show was the dialogue wasn't very Star Trekky. You know the way we're used to them being uniform and all of that and stuff. It just seems out of place, and they need to tone that down. She is a good actress. Nobody's denying that. It's just I wish they tone her down like they toned down the other actress, because I agree with Chris. Like she was annoying as hell as well, but she's actually toned it down a bit, and she was actually great in the latest episode. So, she's far too cocky. That's what it is. Yeah. That's what she comes across as, and you just want to, if you're the captain of the ship and you have an officer like that, you just want to kind of like say leave it out or get off me bridge.
Well, Dave Cullen actually in one of his videos called out something. When he was comparing it, where you have her making her little quips about everything Pike says. I'm like, oh, we're going into the black hole of death or whatever. And he compared it to an episode early in Voyager, The Cloud. I think it's like the 4th episode in, where Harry Kim is like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that before. And then Tuvok just subtly taps his communicator. I'm like, Mr. Kim, we prefer not to hear something like that from a senior officer, as it may unnerve the fellow officer.
Exactly.
But you can see, and this is my theory, where Kurtzman's control goes away more and more because you can see the characters changing. You can see, because it was Goldsman and Kurtzman and Beyer. I don't even think Michael Chabon has anything to do with this show. That set the template for the show. But you can see with each episode, they're taking it further and further away from that template. And you can see they're altering characters from the way they were originally envisioned. And there was one thing. It might be maybe a minor spoiler, but not really. Remember in the second season or the season premiere of Disgracery, where they bring on the white dude and he's all cocky and condescending, and then he gets blowed up. So it's cover your ears. It's maybe a minor spoiler, but it shows how different these two shows are. So in the most recent episode, they start with a promotion, and he's just like, and you would not see this on Disgracery. It's just a regular white dude, and everybody's supporting him, even the characters I don't like, and he's being promoted to lieutenant. So I'm like, okay, they're gonna turn this guy into a joke because this is what they do, but they didn't. And they joke a little bit. Spock accidentally calls him ensign, and he has to buy him a drink. And what happens to this character, without going into it, is actually heartbreaking. It's exactly the opposite of the way they handled it on Disgracery. So
Yeah,
it's little things like that. But you can tell that Kurtzman's control was lost in that first episode. And it all comes down to the fact that there are both sides to the argument. And if you can't come to an agreement, you're going to blow yourselves up, which is apparently, folks, what we're going to do in a few years. Although, honestly, I can see that happening at this point because the world is depressing. But it's, they're asking questions again, but they're not doing it in a ham-fisted way. They're doing it in the way Star Trek always did it. Whereas if you compare it to Picard, my God, like the beginning, when they had the season premiere, I'm like, okay, good, this actually looks interesting. Then I'm like, no, we're not going to do this in sci-fi allegory. No, we're going back to current year, and we're going to fill this with as many current yearisms as where they're not even hiding it. Like,
yeah,
Christ, I'm like, so the difference is staggering, and I think it's that Picard season 2 because it was well far, and I think that's why Kurtzman and Goldsman have lost control because they saw what they did with toilet paper, and it was too late by that point to do anything about it because they have to get these things shot as quick as they can before Patrick Stewart forgets his name. Uh, but it's like, Christ, and I thought Star Trek was done after Picard. I watched that. I'm like,
yeah,
this is done. I watched. I'm like, it's back. So what we need to do is you need to take Kurtzman and Goldsman off the show completely. Bayer and Chabon needs to be removed from the franchise. You need to get competent people. You need to get Manny Koto, who saved Enterprise during its last 2 seasons, back as showrunner. You need to get anybody you can from DS9. I don't know how old Ira Stephen Bear is, but he's got to be retirement age. But bring him in as a consultant because he did give us our greatest show. Brandon Braga, who was executive, well, still is executive producer on the Orville, who manned up and took personal responsibility for all the issues near the end of Enterprise, which you'd never see anybody doing that in modern day. Bring him on, bring actual Star Trek people back, get rid of these shills. I don't even call them shills. No, shill's a bad word. What do I call them? I'm just going to call them fucking idiots. Get rid of these fucking idiots. Bring in people that know the show. Bring in people that respect the show. For Christ, bring in more people from Star Trek Continues. And you do that, and you will have another DS9 on your hands because one thing that Strange New Worlds has that TNG, DS9, and Voyager didn't have, and well, Voyager never really had it, is the first season of all 3 of those shows were terrible, awful. TNG was boring, which is why they completely revamped it by season 3. Then it became the TNG we know. DS9, its first season was a disaster. Anybody remember the game episode? Where they're doing the hopscotch, things like that. And well, Voyager never found its footing, but it got better after the first season. This show actually has and well, obviously Disgracery was garbage from the beginning. But this show has done what those shows could do, where it found its footing a few episodes in. I'd say really in many ways by the first episode. So that curse is done. So if it could be this far ahead of the other series in the first season, then could imagine where it could go if we have competent people.
yeah. I mean, look, again, you've made some very valid points. I think Trek's biggest problem nowadays is the fact that you do have people writing the show and telling stories that aren't or don't know the franchises as they should. I agree with you. I mean, you need to be getting more Trek people involved. And you are right about Strange New Worlds. You could tell that Kurtzman has little input in this show, and that's all. And look, for me, if I was a big wig looking at this, right, I would say oh my God, there's something, we have to do something about this. Kurtzman, look, I'm not going to sit here and criticize Kurtzman because I like these Hawaii 5-0, the updated version, and I thought some of his writing there was superb, but he's just not a sci-fi writer. Again, same problem that we had with Doctor Who that I don't want to get into, but Chris Chibnall's the same elk, right? He cannot write sci-fi, right? Kurtzman's the same, and the people that he mostly hires and it tells also don't understand Star Trek and aren't have don't understand it. That's the problem. And if, as I said, if I was a big wig looking at this, I would see this as well, I'd actually approach Kurtzman and say, well, what the hell is going on? How come all the other shows are failing and this show is doing well? I'd start questioning. These people need to be called out and questioned. JJ as well has been breezing through this industry for years now. Now I think he has been finally called out, which is a long time in coming. In fairness, these guys move from studio to studio like locusts. This is what they do. And they promise all of these different things, right? And they never deliver. And then they move on and get these multi-million-dollar contracts with another company, which baffles me, right? And then they go in there and they promise all of this other stuff. And then eventually someone has looked at it and said, well, JJ, all these shows you've promised to produce and movies, you haven't actually produced any of them. What's going on?
Like the elusive Star Trek 4?
Like, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. But these are the people that they've put in charge of some of the most important franchises and franchises that mean a lot to a lot of people out there. Yeah, and it's ridiculous. JJ should have been called out years ago, right? There was a rumored Superman movie as well. Like, look, he has previous, right? He was supposed to do this Superman movie. I've done all the history on Superman. I've watched this YouTuber. He's brilliant. He breaks it all down. All of these so-called Superman movies that we were supposed to get. And the Kurtzman, or the JJ one, don't get me wrong, sounded interesting. But even then, he was thinking about changing something with Superman, or whether it was the origins or something like that. He was going to fuck around with that. So I'm glad he didn't actually do that, and he didn't actually, produce what he said he was going to produce. But this has been going on for too long. These fellas have been going from franchise to franchise, studio to studio, and haven't produced that and fucking decent. And yet they still keep getting work. It's baffling. People need to look at this. Hollywood need to look at this. You need to get people in that truly care about these franchises. It's the only way. I'm not saying you should pander to fans
Daniel's
all the time.
taking off. Oh, take care, my friend.
Sorry, I went on a bit of a.
Oh no, Daniel just said he's.
He's off to do his Pro Evolution Soccer stream. So if Daniel's channel has actually over the last couple of weeks since he started doing these football streams has blown up. His subscriber count has gone up. His views have also exploded as well. So if you are into watching football streams, go and check him out on his channel. And he'd be doing other gaming streams as well. And as you know, he does his Line of Duty reviews as well. And he'd be doing, obviously, when RTD returns, he said he'll be doing a couple of streams there. But go and check out his channel and support him, guys. So Daniel, have a good one. I'll be there as soon as we're finished here, but we're going to be going for a little bit longer here on the channel because there's so much to talk about. But look, again, I'm not going to get it. I've already had me rant, but look, it's simple, right? We've seen examples of where studios just decide to make something, and Top Gun Maverick is obviously the perfect example, right? You make a movie, right? That's a legacy sequel, respects the original, right? But add something new to it, you get over $1 billion in the bank, right? This is Tom Cruise's most successful movie of all time. Now, if the studio doesn't see what's going on here. It was the same with Joker, right? The Joaquin Phoenix movie, right? It was the same with the Spider-Man, the latest Spider-Man movie,
Yeah.
right? You give the fans and the general audience what they want, you'll make money. This nonsense of what they've been doing over the last few years needs to stop now.
Well, actually,
It's
I got a theory about that. And Lee mentioned earlier, it's the second season when they go woke. We'll see if they break the mold. Um, and I'm out of the culture war,
I'm confident
yeah,
about
but it's
Strange New Worlds actually not going
here's what I
that
think
way.
why it won't go woke, and why I think we're going to start seeing a change is you now have the Netflix example. And Netflix is screwed no matter what they do now because they made very poor decisions 4 years ago, and now it's they're going to be bought out, and by one of the larger companies. Like they're going to be bought out. But you have Paramount Plus, you have some of the other streaming services. Disney keeps getting worse, but yeah, you have the example of Netflix, where Netflix had an opportunity to change course before it was too late. They're changing course now. It's too late to change course now. Instead of investing in decent content, you had like your handful of good shows. You had Ozark, you had Stranger Things, a few other things. Um, and the rest of it was woke garbage, kind of like what Star Trek has been. But I think any executive that actually wants to make money and wants to compare needs to look at what's happening to Netflix, because we are approaching what I think will be the post Netflix era of television. Netflix could have taken their money. They could have, obviously, Fox was up for sale when they had momentum. They could have bought Fox. At some point, they could have purchased CBS. So they would have a back catalog of stuff to go off of. And it was perfectly within the realm of possibility they could have bought either of those studios. But instead, Netflix blew billions on making garbage that nobody wanted to watch. And because they didn't have any catalog content other than the handful of decent shows that they had, as other streaming service pulled off the content that people actually wanted to watch, and as they kept raising their prices, all you were left with was a handful of shows and a bunch of garbage that nobody wants to watch for $20 a month. And
Yeah,
this is the example, because one company was going to implode eventually on the altar of wokeness. I thought it was going to be Disney, but Disney purchased Fox, so they're marketing it terribly, but they do have that back catalog content to go with. But eventually, and this woke stuff, it's been going on since started in 2016, completely blew up between 2017 and 2019, and one of these big companies was going to go under. I I had my suspicions it could have been Netflix, but it was handled so badly. And Netflix, they were 2 years ago, they were an absolute behemoth. But they're the example of get woke, go broke, you're done. They're not getting out of this. Somebody, oh, you're,
it's
yeah,
grand. The moderators will sort it
okay,
out. I
cool.
don't.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
actually
no,
draw
no, we're not even
attention to it
we're not
anymore.
even gonna acknowledge that.
Yeah, I don't draw
It's
attention to it
but
anymore.
they've got yeah, you have it. You went broke, or you went woke, you went broke. The only thing that's going to happen with Netflix, like Netflix's content now, because they're in a spiral that there is now no way out of. One of the other studios is going to purchase the husk of Netflix, uh, and it can't. Thank God, it can't be Disney, because I can't believe the FCC actually let the Fox merger go through. So the good thing is it won't be Disney. I don't know, maybe Paramount or Warner, HBO Max, they do have some properties that are worth something. So they're going to be bought out. The name Netflix is definitely going to be retired because Netflix is associated with things like cuties now. But this is why I think we're finally going to see a change, because what are these people in for? And yeah, Disney is dying as well. I stopped watching Obi-Wan after episode 4, and I'm not going to really go into it here, but to say I'm done with Disney, and the less I see of Miss Marvel, the better. But Disney isn't in the same situation as Netflix, because of bad management and bad decision making, has no legacy content to base off of, and that's where, on a streaming service, that's where you're going to get a lot of your views from. It's going to be those old shows that people love. And Netflix, there's maybe a handful of them left, and that's it. Although in Canada, we still have The Office, oddly. But I think that's what Disney has. Is Disney does have Fox, and you do have Fox properties that are worth a lot of money. So Disney can get themselves out of this tailspin they're in right now. But Obi-Wan was, I don't know, maybe it got better. I won't be watching any more of it, but maybe it got better as it went on. But the optics right now is not good for Disney. But Disney, they have an opportunity. Netflix has no opportunity. So you have Paramount Plus, HBO Max, all these other services. You're seeing in real time what happened to Netflix because of the woke content. And with Paramount Plus, Star Trek is their flagship service. I can't even, other than the stuff that airs on the network, I can't even name anything else that would be on Paramount Plus, which we, in Canada, it's all under our Crave dumping service anyway. But the remerger, or CBS All Access and Paramount going back into one company and trying to, because CBS All Access was a dumpster fire in terms of trying to save the service. If like Star Trek is like Netflix's Stranger Things, if your lead franchise is failing, then you're failing. And under Disgracery and Toilet Paper, it was failing. I think so. Like the entire existence of Paramount Plus, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, I think is on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, because this is what can pull them out of the dumpster fire that they've been in since 2017. But that's why I think we're going to be seeing less of the woke content, and it comes down to, and I've been saying this for as long as Noel and I have been streaming together, which is like 5 years. I've been saying it over and over again. There's going to come a point when you've gone too far with this content. Companies are going to start to go under, and ultimately you're in the entertainment business to make money. You have proof that nobody wants this garbage. So now you're at the point where you reverse the wokeness and go back to making things that people want, or you end up like Netflix. And the sad thing about Netflix is they made a public spectacle of, we're telling their woke employees if they don't like it, they can leave. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's too late. It's too late. Because even if you reverse course now, it's going to be 1 to 2 years before your new content even gets out. Your better shows like Ozark is done. That was one of their good shows. Stranger Things has one more season left, I believe. Those are the only 2 shows that I could name that anybody would want to watch. So it's like, CBS, Paramount, do you want to be Netflix?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Add to that. I mean, this should be a wake-up call, because the pioneer of streaming services, Netflix, the biggest one that everybody considered, and they were considered the pioneers, is about to go under. And if that is not a wake-up call for the rest of the streaming services out there, nothing will save them. Because look, this is the perfect example of what you do when you pander to a small minority out there. And here's the thing. I don't think people would have had such a backlash against Netflix if they weren't trying to push these shows, though, right? The whole point of a streaming service is that the consumer can choose what they want. When Netflix start pushing certain shows, which we've seen screenshots of, people have put their Netflix accounts up and showed what type of stuff that they're pushing, well then you're heading into very dangerous territory because you're isolating the rest of your audience, and that's what they're going to see on your platform. The first thing they see on your platform.
Yep.
So you're not setting the right tone for people like me to go and buy Netflix. We've actually cancelled our Netflix
I am
subscription.
I'm going to finish cuz I want to finish Ozark. I want to finish Stranger Things. After that I'm done because any of the series that I used to watch are on other streaming services, and any series that I really want to watch because streaming is so precarious is I'll pick it up on Blu-ray. But there's going to be that when we look back on this, there's going to be that day, I think it was March or April, whatever day it was, it will be known as the day Netflix died, which is the day their stock cratered.
Mm.
And I put out a tweet of this as well. So the day their stock cratered was the day they pushed out an email to all their subscribers about the show with the pregnant dude.
Yeah. And
I'm
then
like,
they had the
wow.
cheek to ask for money. Then they had the cheek then to say that they're bringing out a new service where they were going to have ads. The whole point of streaming services, and this is why Netflix was so good at what they did, was they wouldn't even consider things like that back in the day. They were, you don't bring ads in. As soon as you bring ads in, you know you're desperate, you know you're dying. And that's exactly what they're trying to do now. And here's the thing, the quality of their shows, as Bolstrek has mentioned, as Cultivated. Sorry, it's a
Oh,
habit.
that's okay. No, it's
Um,
oh
but
wait, oh no, you it's like the episode. You called me an ensign, dude. You owe me. Well, I don't drink. You owe me a pop.
that's it. I do. I do. I'll send you over some Irish pop. How about that? Anyway, but here's the thing: they're hiking the price, yeah. But the quality of the stuff that they're actually producing has actually lowered. So the standards have lowered, right? I mean, Netflix. This is how bad they are, right? Right now, they've cancelled. They've cancelled. What was it called? G Force, I think it's called. Right? It was a show that was aimed at the LGBTQ plus community. It's been axed after one season. And this is another thing that I have a problem with, especially this month, is the fact that a lot of these companies will pander, right? And they don't, and I'm gonna say it, and I don't care what people say, it's the truth of the matter. They do not give two flying fucks about the LGBTQ plus community,
No,
right?
it's like
Because if they did shows like the shows that they're producing, right, they would give them time to develop and grow, right, and give them more than one bloody season. It's just typical pandering from these companies. And you know what? Here's the thing, and it might be a shock to all of these streaming platforms. The audience are seeing right through it now. The audience are seeing right through it now, and it's reflecting on them. And listen, Netflix is in a bad state, but look, there are other streaming platforms out there that are actually struggling as well at the moment. I mean, this whole streaming thing was supposed to innovate TV. I
well, it's
think
gotten out
what's
of hand.
happened. I think what's happened is there's too many of them. There's way too many of them. The market has been saturated with them, so they're all fighting for this chunk of this big pie. But there's not. But the more that come in, the less money there is to make. So for you to stand out, you have got to be making top quality shows, movies, or whatever you do on your streaming platform. And unfortunately, a lot of them out there, and even some of the better ones, they're very inconsistent. They're still very inconsistent. It's that's yeah. I mean, to me, it's ridiculous that now we're being, you have to get all these streaming services
Well,
to watch
it's
TV
another thing
now.
that
It's
they're
all
doing.
just money, but I just wish that they paid more attention to the audience and they cared enough. I mean, they're asking us to pay through the nose, so at least give us something decent to watch. And I think people are getting fed up because they've had this for a long time now. I didn't think that this whole trend, this thing now, obviously Chris did, right? I didn't. I thought it would fade out a lot sooner than, but this seems to be now, as Cultivated Media said, you could see now that they're positive signs that these people are now beginning to be self-aware again. But how many billions have you all lost?
Well, that's the
And it was
thing.
unnecessary in the first place. All you had to do was give us what we wanted, and that wasn't a hard thing. But you decided to go down this route for some weird reason because it hasn't made you money, right? I don't get it. I thought you were all these studios were all about stream plat, were all about making money,
Well, this is why
right?
they're done. I'm like they are, and people say, well, Netflix can turn around. I'm like, no, they are billions of dollars in debt because they banked everything on new content, and it was wasted. Like, how many one season wonders are on Netflix that nobody ever watches? And
Yeah,
you were, it's kind of funny you're saying, when you look at what it's recommended, I'm like, you could tell because I've had Netflix for years, their algorithm is supposed to be able to tell that there's some content that I'm not interested in. And I should have taken pictures of it because I think it was earlier this year. It was ridiculous.
yeah,
They got, okay, so they had the first one, LGBT content. Okay. Pride content right after that. Well, isn't that the same thing? Um, I think in another one they had it for transgender something or other, like 3 tiers for the same thing being recommended to me on their little drop down lists. And I've downvoted all that content, so why would I want to see it in the first place? But here's another thing that Netflix did that really pisses me off is occasionally they will have a good show that will get completely buried in this garbage and
yeah,
not mentioned like one that, and this was why I'm never going to watch a new Netflix series again unless it's been on for a few years. They actually earlier this year they had a really good show called Archive 81. It was kind of like this time travel mystery thing, and it had an amazing cliffhanger. Now, maybe not everybody will agree with me. Most of you probably didn't even see it, although it's actually worth. If you still have Netflix, it's worth watching the first season. But it was a great show. Like, I was enjoying it all the way through. Then right after I watched the final episode, and Netflix has canceled Archive 81. I'm like, well, why? Oh, yeah, that's because you didn't promote it, but you're promoting pregnant babies coming out of men. You weren't promoting this. So after that, like, why am I going to keep Netflix? I'm like, I'm not interested. I'm not going to watch any of their new content because you get into, the 1% of stuff that isn't shit. And it's just going to be canceled anyway. Every back catalog show I used to watch on Netflix is either on another streaming service or gone. Now, one thing I don't know, you may have noticed yesterday. This is just an example of how pissed off I am with the whole concept of streaming. Yesterday on Twitter, I put up a picture of Bates Motel, the complete Blu-ray set, which is actually one of my favorite shows. The reason why I ended up buying that is because I wanted to watch the show from beginning to end again this summer. So I went on to it. It's surprise, surprise, it's not on Netflix anymore because nothing's on Netflix anymore. And it was on Prime. Nope, not on Prime anymore. I'm like, so the only way I could do this is, visit the high seas, which I can't be bothered to do anymore. Or actually purchase it, although it's one of my favorite shows, and I can't watch it anywhere on streaming anymore unless I want to buy it on Apple TV for like $3 an episode, which is ridiculous.
yeah.
And the Blu-ray set, at least in Region 1, is out of print. So I was able to get it through a party. It was not cheap either. I like my entire Blu-ray budget for the month went to buying this. There is a Region 2 Blu-ray, which is supposed to be region free, but I wasn't taking that risk. It was a little bit cheaper. So yeah, so this show that I wanted to watch on multiple streaming services used to be on 2 of them. I had to go out and purchase. Now I'm glad I purchased the Blu-ray because it's like Breaking Bad. It's one of those shows that I will watch over and over again just because I love it. If you haven't seen it, it's brilliant. But it's stuff like that pisses me off about streaming services. You can't get invested in anything because you'll get that notification. You're halfway through a series. And yeah, I know this series is 7 or 8 seasons long, and we know you just started watching it, but yeah, Netflix is taking this away at the end of the month. And we all get those emails from Netflix month after month. It's like, here's what's leaving Netflix: a bunch of these legacy shows that a lot of people want to watch.
Yeah.
Here's what's coming to Netflix: a bunch of shit. I think the last one I got yesterday. What were they? They're losing a couple things. They're losing Dawson's Creek, and I know that has a large fan base on Netflix. I know because the show's like 20 years old. It's nostalgic. That's one of the few shows left that people subscribe to Netflix for. No, that's going away. Their Scream series, which I've never watched, which I thought was a Netflix exclusive, for some reason that one's going away. And what was recommended, I can't even tell. Looked like a bunch of shit. This is why I hate streaming. So if you want to get invested in a show, if it is an exclusive to that streaming service, and you think you're going to watch it again, unless it's on Disney, get it on physical media. And get it before it's gone, because Bates Motel is out of print. In Region 1, you cannot get the X-Files is completely out of print in DVD and Blu-ray now. Disney was nice enough to take X-Files out of circulation for the first time in almost 30 years. So if you like the show, buy it on physical media.
Yeah.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds, it'll be the first new Star Trek series I bought on physical media.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it myself. I was gonna say that I'm gonna buy it myself because I agree with you. I think when the digital age came in, it was handy for everybody. But what we all did, or some of us did, like idiots, is that we got rid of our physical media, which because for me, I found it convenient having everything digitally. Now I'm back buying physical media and I'm slowly building it back up again. But I would agree, if you have a show out there, because again, some of these streaming services have blatantly, right? We seen it. Was it last year or the year before when one of these? I think it was Netflix put Back to the Future. Was it Back to the Future Part 1 or 2? But they edited it. They took out a scene. They took out a scene. It was Back to the Future 1. It was the ooh la la scene. You know the part where is that Back to the Future 2? I always get confused. But it's the ooh la la scene. It's the scene where Michael J. Marty is in the Principal Strickland's office, and he's trying to get he thinks it's the sports almanac. It's the second one. Yeah. He wants to get the sports almanac, but when he opens it up, it's ooh la la. Well, they edited that scene out, and there was uproar, and people asked for it to be restored. And this is why I've said ever since, buy physical copies.
Well, look what they did to poor Gone with the Wind. I actually, as soon as it was available again, I ended up buying the Blu-ray that came out in 2011 before all this crap and before constant disclaimers. I'm like, you can't edit. You edit historical content. That's what media is. It's I guess what we will call cultural history.
Yeah, it is cultural history. All right.
It shows this is what the world was like. This is Back to the Future. This is a lot of things would not be made now. The whole mother son thing definitely wouldn't be made now. But you have to look at these things, and you have to look at when they were made. I'm like, it's a representation of the time, and you can't cancel. You can't just delete these things because you don't like them in modern times.
Exactly. Look, if you want your stupid disclaimers on them, fine. I can deal with that, even though I think you shouldn't have to. If you want to
take care, my friend.
But if you want to do that, then yeah, put your disclaimer, but leave it the way it was made, because Chris is right. It's a piece of movie history or TV show history, and we do. And Gobby Guy, have a good one. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there, but I just wanted to get the point across real quickly. But seriously, even PD Richard said splash on Disney Plus. I remember that outrage as well. Look they're the movies and TV shows that we grew up with were a bit more, let's just say, you wouldn't get away with it today. But that's just the way it was back then. It did us no harm. That, you know what I mean? Where you don't have to. This is the thing that bothers me the most about all of this. These people that complain about old movies and TV shows, how they're problematic. Nobody is actually forcing you to watch any of these things. You know, you can ignore them and watch the shit that you want to watch and just let us enjoy the things that we like. I mean, I don't. This is the thing that has always amazed me. Like nobody forces you to watch these things, so you know if you didn't watch them, then you wouldn't have to be complaining all the time. Because I've just never got it. I've just never got it. As I said, if you were forced to watch it, I'd say right, fair enough. But you're not. There's a
Well,
lot.
it's a generational thing though, because you and I, we're basically the same age. Well, we are. Well, you're 1 year younger than me, but we grew up at
Yeah,
the same time, and it's the way we were raised. I'm like, well, we'll watch something, and we know, okay, in current context, yes, something like Song of the South is probably not appropriate to be made now, but it didn't affect us. We had critical thinking skills, which has been beat out of kids now with brainwashing.
yeah.
But it's like we were the most inclusive generation, genuinely inclusive generation in history. Like
Yeah,
this.
I remember watching that movie, and then shortly after, I remember watching it as a kid, and I remember then shortly after it start getting banned in other countries, and then Disney obviously, pulled the plug on it completely. But you are right. I mean, you wouldn't get away with that today because it was. If you look at it, like
You
I
won't
can
get away
admit
with
it. You
that
look at it, it
down here.
was obviously, it was stereotypical. The whole lot. Every complaint that people have about it is absolutely true. But the thing about it is, it was buried. Like I mean, they got rid of it. It's not as if they've been flogging it for years. Here, watch this movie. You know, they got rid of it. So I don't know why people are complaining about it today. There's no point. It's gone. Yes, it was a mistake. Shouldn't have happened. Right? But I will say the song was great in it, and I don't give a shit what anybody says.
Oh,
I mean,
I had the record when I was a kid, and but it's not just stuff from 75 years ago,
mm,
like stuff like I watch comedies and things like that aren't that old, from maybe a decade ago. Like one of my favorite all time franchises is American Pie. I mean, the four main
yeah,
movies. The other ones are awful.
yeah.
But every year, at least, I watch all four of the main movies once. And the most recent one is 2012. So, oh, Noel's got friends.
It's Grant. Go ahead.
All right. So the most recent one is, from 2012. So 10 years ago. I'm watching that. I'm like, okay, there's no way, even the reunion, there's no way anything in that movie would be made today. I'm
No,
watching stuff like The Hangover. That's not that old. That wouldn't be made today.
you're
Uh,
right.
Even things like Neighbors, which isn't even 10 years old, wouldn't get made today. I'm literally just looking at, my shelf here. Ted would not be made today.
No,
Uh,
definitely not.
Change Up would not be made today. The Watch wouldn't be made today.
No.
And I'm just naming things that I'm seeing I'm just staring over at my comedy shelf. Like stuff from 10 years ago would not be made today. It's like, it's
No, I know a movie that wouldn't be made today, right? Actually, Knocked Up.
Oh God, and that's 2008.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's how do I know that, folks? Because I watched that on one of my dates with my ex-wife, and it was 2008. But
yeah.
carrying on, yeah, no, it was, yeah, that was
Road Trip
2008.
would be another one that wouldn't be made today. Road Trip was very out there as well, and that wouldn't be made today, I don't think.
Harold and Kumar.
That wouldn't be
Those
made
movies.
today.
That's 2008. I was watching that last week. I'm like, my God, that the bottomless pool scene would get you canceled and thrown in jail now.
Yeah.
It's it,
The obvious one from Lee, which he's right to point out as
Blazing
well.
Saddles.
Blazing Saddles, that definitely wouldn't be made today, mate. I mean, could you imagine the controversy if someone remade that movie? Not seriously, and didn't change a thing, right? It would be absolutely like people wouldn't get it was a joke because people nowadays can't take a joke. Yeah, it's actually, it's actually sad. I have to say, I'm not bragging, and I think Chris will agree with me. I think we grew up a nice time.
No, we did.
We definitely did, and not only pop culture wise, but I mean life in general.
It
And
was so much
people are
better.
far more nicer to each other than they are today. It's like today people just wake up, right? Who am I going to cancel today, or who am I going to upset today, or you know what I mean? It just seems to be just nastiness. I
Well,
don't. I'm just
we've watched it in real time.
yeah. It's sad. People don't realize how far society has actually fallen. It's actually pretty sad, and it's scary at the same time. Um,
And that's the thing about, and specifically, the baby boomers not so much, because they largely checked out of everything by the time they hit their 50s, and they don't really follow what's going on. But Gen X, which is us,
mhm.
people in their mid early to mid 40s into their late 50s, uh, we have watched it in real time. And because, unlike the baby boomers, we still kind of kept up with technology, kept up with, somewhat modern trends, although TikTok is the antichrist. But we've seen it in real time. And,
Yeah,
we were in our, most of us were at least in our 30s by the time everything started to go to shit. So we have very clear memories. And we're not just talking out of our ass, because you ask anybody in their mid 40s, what was the world like 20 years ago? And they will tell you, unless they're being dishonest, completely unrecognizable.
yeah.
The world was better. Like, social media was the worst thing to have. Social media and the smartphone were the worst things to happen to humanity. And I
I
think
agree.
I'm one of those people where, uh, you know, I I put my cell phone, like, I'll leave notifications on just in case there's an emergency. But I've gotten to the point now where in the evenings I put my cell phone away. I just leave the ringer on. If it's an emergency, somebody's going to call you, or something like that. But I go back to, like, I've deliberately gone back to what it was like in the 90s and 2000s, where, you had a basic internet, you had message boards, but you didn't have the social nightmare you have now. I will turn it off and I will watch a movie, or, play with my puppy, or do whatever it is I'm doing, go out and do some barbecuing, mow the lawn. And it's like I've gotten to the point where it's like, yes, I can turn it off. And that's why I often, sometimes it'll take me forever to get back to somebody when they message me, because I turn Twitter off at the evening. My computer is turned off, my phone is aside. I'm like, I don't want to be part of this world all the time. You
No,
know,
I agree with you. I think it's great when you switch off for a while. I think everybody actually needs to do that. You don't realize how much better you feel when you're not caught up in it, or you're watching all, because it's negative all the time. There's never anything positive said on
nope.
social media. I think David Bowie in the 90s predicted. I think this was when the internet was first conceived and it was out,
Yeah,
and
with
he actually
Kennedy.
had an interview, and I don't know if you've watched it. It's
Oh, I have
available on
seen it. It's from
YouTube.
1995.
Yeah, and he predicts this. He predicts this, and he gets a spot on, right? And the problem with social media is, and I'm kind of a bit of a hypocrite here when I say this, but it is true. Social media has given everybody a voice, and then obviously there are some out there that think obviously their voice is more important than someone else's, and that's what's happened here. It's caused the bloody. It's had the opposite effect. It's fractured society. So many people are arguing with each other, and it's a distraction. Look, there's shit going on with our governments that we should be paying attention to.
Well,
But
it's a distraction. And this is why people need to get their faces out of social media and even YouTube. If you take a step back, what's going on right now in the larger scheme of things is absolutely terrifying.
hmm,
Uh, if you look at right now, inflation is out of control. Nobody can afford anything. Nobody in Canada can afford gas. My car is basically parked. I take it out now if there's an emergency. Things are destabilizing, and things are being thrown our way as a distraction. And I'm not, and it will get. I know I don't want to get Noel's channel in trouble, so I won't mention what was overturned a little over a week ago.
Yeah,
But
don't. Yeah.
you think it's coincidental? Do you really think it was about that thing that was overturned? Honestly, it's everything is going to shit. Everything. And it's like, squirrel, look over here. Okay, look, Kate, we need a controversy. So you're not looking at what we're doing over here. We're going to do this.
It's
So,
always been the same tactic that they've used, but yeah.
Yep.
As a society, obviously,
now.
there's some of us that are wide awake to it, but the majority keep getting fooled every bloody time. And as I said, you know, it all connects because it goes into where pop culture, it goes into, you know what I mean? It goes in, it's in everything now.
Yeah, brand services. Exactly.
That's it. MySpace was the goat of social media, so obviously they had to they had to kill us as Lee. I mean, look, the early days of the internet were great. I don't know if people remember the early days of the internet, but the early days of the internet were actually great. Look, social media has had a positive impact, right? But if you judge it fairly, you will say that overall, while it has had some positives, it's had mostly a negative impact on society. But the early days of the internet, even Chris, because he would have been around the early days of the internet as well. They were great.
No, actually, this is how long I've been on the internet and how long I went under that name I used to use. In 1994, this is when the World Wide Web went online. The city that I live in, a medium-sized city, was actually the test site because we weren't Toronto; it was more manageable. We were the test site for a internet network in Canada to see how it would work. So we were one of the first cities to be wired in Canada, actually in North America, under the World Wide Web. So I have been online since 1994. November 94 to be exact. So I've been on the internet, as we call it, or the World Wide Web, literally since the beginning. It was fun back then. I loved message boards. And social media turned it into an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, Lee just made the point. The early internet was a nightmare. It took ages. I know. Even a photograph, man, would take about 20 fucking minutes or something. But
I remember the first site I would check, it was StarTrek.msn.com. And that's where you got all your Star Trek information back in the good days. This was, the days of DS9 and Generations.
Yeah.
Was around that time. So what you do is you just type in. You had to type the web address exactly. There was no Google. You had to. So web addresses actually used to mean something. So you type in StarTrek.msn.com. It would start loading. I'd go make a sandwich or whatever. Then you come back, and then it would be almost done.
Yeah, but I used to. No. Look, as I said, people will debate over the years, and historians will as well on what impact social media has had on society. But for me, the negatives outweigh the positives.
There's no positive. It's completely polarized society. Although it's ruined celebrity because before you'd only see what's in Entertainment Tonight was garbage. But if you wanted to see, you'd see, edited clips on Entertainment Tonight or magazine articles. I guess social media allowed us to see what these people are really like. And some of them are horrible people. And, some of them are decent, but at least it's kind of undone celebrity. But it's like, what is Twitter? Twitter is the worst of humanity. Twitter, you could be having a perfect day, and it happened to me many times before I shut down my old Twitter account finally. It happened so many times where I was like, I'm having a great day. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'd go on to Twitter, and I'd see the usual twits. and then my day would go to shit, and then I'd spend the rest of the night arguing with people on Twitter. And comes a point where it's like, enough is enough. I'm not spending my life arguing with idiots across the world that I don't care about on Twitter. It's like, what do you accomplish on Twitter? You raise your blood pressure, you ruin your day, you waste your time.
Yeah.
Like, you don't accomplish anything. You're not going to change anybody's mind. And for all you know, you're arguing with a bot anyway. It's like, it's not worth it. And this is what I've rediscovered is, going back to, I've become my dad. In the 90s, I made fun of my dad for always being stuck in the 60s. Well, now it's the exact same time distance. And I'm stuck in the 90s. But it's like I actively go back to that. It's like I go back to the way, and we're lucky because we remember the days before the internet and before social media. So, I go back to that. I shut my technology off. I will watch my movie from the 1980s, not on streaming, but on my physical Blu-ray. We'll read a book. It's like, at the end of the day, the computer is off. I don't want my life, like so many people, to be that. It's not worth it. And I wish more people would wake up to this. Like, get the hell away from social media. Get away from your Twitter, your TikToks, even the YouTubes. Life is about more. Get outside. Go do something. Find a hobby that's non-digital, that doesn't involve staring at a screen. Do something. Pick up an instrument. Like, you're wasting your lives spending all of it arguing with idiots. Oh, wait, I'm sounding old now. And it's Internet 2.0. And that's and I remember when they were pushing Internet 2.0, would have been around 2003, 2004. Now, for those of you that don't know, Internet 2.0 was the network that enables thing like massive sites like Facebook or YouTube or Twitter to exist. And I remember there being warnings about Internet 2.0 in the early 2000s when they're saying it's a completely different internet. And Internet 2.0 has completely buried the original internet. Like 90% of internet links are actually dead. And we only use about 2% of the internet now, and it's mostly 6 god-awful sites. But yeah, they were saying this about Internet 2.0, which I think MySpace was the first Internet 2.0 site. I think it was 2004, maybe. But they were saying at the time, like, no, actually, this is going to be damaging to society. Because before in the internet, you had to go into chat rooms or you do DMs on Messenger and things like that. But, you weren't constantly exposed to what we're exposed to now. So it was Internet 2.0, but it wouldn't have been that bad if it was just the way the internet used to be, where it's on a computer or a laptop or it's at a room in your house. What made things even worse was the goddamn smartphone.
Yeah.
And I was saying that, and I said this at the time. Other people said this at the time. The smartphone is going to destroy society because now you cannot leave that at home or on your laptop or on your desk. You're going to have it with you all the time. And now we live in a science fiction movie. Because compare 15 years ago, you had your cell phones, you had rudimentary texting and god-awful internet access if you had it, trying to render a standard web page on a phone, so it was useless. But go back to 2007. What was society like? Okay, people would talk, you go around, people were conscious of what's going on. And 2007 was when the first smartphone was launched. Go to it now, everybody's a zombie. Remember Doctor Who, 2006?
Yeah.
Except for it being little things plugged into our ear. And 2006 was before the smartphone. That's actually happened. Society is zombies, and they spend all their time yelling at each other on Twitter. And as Petey Rich says, I use my smartphone as an MP3 player. And you guessed it, a phone. That's mainly what I do. When I'm working, I have audiobooks and stuff. So I use it the same way I would have used a Discman or a Walkman. It's just more convenient. And I use it as a phone. I use it for texting, but texting people the way we would have texted 20 years ago. Uh, in terms of apps, I have YouTube on there because sometimes I'll stream music off YouTube. I've deleted my old Twitter account completely. I have my current one, which is basically I just talk about horror movies, but I don't check it that often. Sometimes I won't check it for days or even weeks at a time. Facebook, I don't use that much. I post pictures of my puppy, and that's about it. But I use it mainly as a contact list. But yeah, I use my phone. It's mainly the same way I was using my Discman, except it's smaller 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah, I used
And
to love
GPS
this.
device, that does help. Okay, that's the one good thing that came out of it, because navigating Toronto before was a nightmare. Now at least I got my phone, so that's the one good thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I loved the Sony Discman when it first came out. I used to always have one. I'd
But
listen
they
to a
all
lot.
skipped. That was the problem. You breathed on it and the thing would skip. No, the
Yeah,
best Discman they ever had, they came out around 96, 97. It was the Panasonic Shockwave. You could get them in like yellow, blue, I think red. Mine was yellow. And it's what actually killed the Sony Discman, because these things were built like tanks. I'm assuming you had them over there, but over here it was, the CD was held perfectly in place, and these things would not skip. Like you could beat it. Like I used to try and make it skip, it would not skip. So Sony Shockwave for the win. But yeah, that's what I remember about the Discman. It wasn't really portable because you had to have it completely flat. It had to be on a table. You couldn't have it on a chair because if it was at an angle, it would skip. But yeah, that's what I remember. But the Sony Walkman, I miss those.
yeah. I just put up Lee's comment there.
This is Lee. To clarify, this is Panasonic of the 90s. This was before Panasonic got scared and pulled out of Canada because their TVs blew up. Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, Lee and I have been fighting over Panasonic TVs specifically. Panasonic actually does make a good Blu-ray or 4K player, but I'm a Sony fanboy when it comes to TVs. And even if I wanted to be a Panasonic fanboy, I couldn't, because Panasonic TVs are no longer available and haven't been for about 8 years in North America, because while everybody else was going LED, Panasonic decided to focus on their exploding plasma TVs, and nobody wanted to buy them anymore, and then they went away. So Sony for the win. But yes, Panasonic, their 4K player is awesome. Well, neither is my Sony TV, Lee. No, because you still have Panasonic in the UK, because they didn't tank themselves over there as badly as they did here. But if you had a plasma, it's burnt down a few houses. That's neither here nor there. But yes, so Panasonic did make a good system. And yes, if I had the money, I would get the $1,500 Panasonic 4K player in Canada, because the thing's a beast, but I don't have that kind of money. Yeah.
By the way, talking about Canada.
Oh yeah,
happy Canada Day.
Oh, yeah, I'm one of those that no longer celebrates that, because when a country hates your guts, you find it hard to celebrate it. So a bunch of us, actually a lot of us now, just consider it a day off. A lot of people wouldn't even mention it yesterday, but you can wish me a happy yesterday day off.
There you go. Yeah, no, I kind of get where you're coming from. But I will say to people out there that are celebrating, and remember, Independence Day for Americans is coming up as well.
Monday. And how long has it been since we actually discussed Strange New Worlds? Well, we actually stayed on topic for an hour.
Well, we did for over an hour, so I mean, we're not talking that long, but we will get back because we got 10 minutes to go, so we will get back.
Yeah, I got to go soon, and I got to. Puppy is purring.
But that's what I was going to say. Bring up the dogs. So, a lot of yous will be celebrating over the holiday and stuff like that, and there'll be fireworks going off. I can't believe I actually have to say this, but some people are stupid to leave their animals outside when all of this is happening. But bring your animals indoors because fireworks, dogs, cats,
Don't mix.
they don't mix, and you should see poor little Ted when they go off here. He's terrified, runs under. Well, he tries to run under the bed or the sofa, anywhere where he
Oh,
can get a
Sky
bit
had
of.
her first yesterday. It's it's all first for my puppy. So yesterday were her first fireworks, and she did not like them.
Yeah. So just be more aware, will you? Because this is the time of the year that a lot of family pets are lost because of uh, families being stupid. Basically, it's stupidity. You
Well,
should always know to
if
put
you're going to leave your dog outside by themselves, you have no business having a dog in the first place. My
exactly.
dogs go outside. Uh, in all the years I had Lexi, and all the years I had my German Shepherd, they would not be allowed outside unsupervised. The closest thing was when Lexi was a puppy. I'd let her out back just to go for a tinkle. But after she got out one night, that stopped. So that didn't even last until she was 1 year old. But no, my dogs have never been tied up outside by themselves.
Yeah.
Never. It's
No.
like they, if they're outside, dad's outside with them.
Yeah.
Because why would you leave a family member tied up to a tree outside for hours on end?
Yeah. And remember, dogs are like babies too,
Yep.
right? So a bit of cop on during this holiday season. But as I said, we've only got a few minutes left. So what we'll do is we'll drag it back to Strange New Worlds. And
Oh, we
what
were
I'll
here.
ask you is 8 episodes in, right?
Oh, 9.
9, sorry. If you were to give this a score out of 10 so far for what you've seen, what would you give Strange New Worlds?
At the beginning, I would have given it maybe a 6.5 because it still had problems, but it's improved with each episode. And after last week's episode, which I think, and it's happened several times this season, the best Star Trek episode we've had since 2005. And there were other strong episodes, Memento Mori being one of them. I would give it, this might be controversial, but judging at where it is right now and how much I'm actually enjoying it, I would give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. It's definitely an 8 or an 8.5. Look at this, obviously, with this show, as we said, it's not perfect. But this is the start of something I think positive for the Trek name. If they keep up the momentum, and hopefully season 2, they keep up the momentum and it improves even further,
Well,
then we're
the
looking
next
at.
week is the season finale.
Yeah. So we're looking at and I hope it's brilliant. Look, it'll be such a shame if it kind of, after all the build up we've had and the episode isn't spectacular, but I'm pretty sure it will be. But look, if they keep this up and then season 2, they can keep up the momentum, maybe fix some of the issues that we do have, and as Chris said, you know, there are some canon issues that will need to be explored
But
and
not as serious as Discovery,
yeah,
where it
exactly.
completely fell out of line, completely with even the next generation.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I'd agree with Chris on this. This show has a lot of potential. So far, it's doing a very good job of keeping me interested each week. And that's another thing as well. This show has a knack of wanting you to tune in.
Well, and you
Uh,
want to rewatch it. I haven't rewatched outside of doing reviews a single episode of Disgracery, and well, I stopped watching it in season 2. That other show I used to cover, which shall remain nameless, I haven't had any desire to rewatch an episode of that after my videos were done, and I haven't watched the last 2. Um, uh, Strange New Worlds, as soon as it's done, I am going to watch the whole season again from beginning to end, and I will watch the whole season from beginning to end again when it comes out on Blu-ray. I haven't had the desire to rewatch Star Trek in 17 years since
Yeah,
the last season of Enterprise was the last time I've wanted to rewatch something.
yeah, yeah, and that says a lot. That's what I mean. I personally think that people look, as I said, I think in the day and age that we're living in now, yes, me and Chris have our opinion, right? You shouldn't take that with as fact either. We all have different tastes, obviously,
And we don't
right? But
always have
what
the
I
same.
would do is I would encourage people to check it out and to, you know, see for yourselves, because we're living, as I said, we're living in an age now where whether it's media or a YouTube channel will do a review on the show and people will take their word absolutely that this show is rubbish or whatever, right? And I don't think that's the way it should be. I think people should, you know, think for themselves, as we've always said. Don't become sheep and watch these things for yourselves. If you don't like it and you agree with these YouTubers, that's fine.
Yeah, no,
But
it's nothing wrong
check
with
them
that.
out, man. At least give it a go. If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. Fair enough. Nobody's forcing anybody, as I said, to watch any of these things. If it's not your cup of tea, then fine. But check them out for yourselves. Don't take, you know, same with Rotten Tomatoes and all of these other critics and all of this, right? Don't take their word for it. Go and watch
Actually,
these for yourself. It's the only way you'll ever know if you like or dislike something. That's it. And all we can do here on our YouTube channels is basically come on and give our opinions and say, right, this is what we think of the show, and these are the reasons why we think it's a good show. But people don't have to agree with us. But at the same time, I would say to everybody, if you haven't watched this show because you're not sure about, because in your eyes, Trek has been dragged through the mud, which is absolutely true, right? Nobody's denying that. But you will see if you watch this show what we can see what this show is doing. And I think if it keeps it up and season two is even better than season one and they keep the momentum going, we're in for a decent show here. I think we'll be looking at one of the top sci-fi shows out there. I truly do believe in this show
we're
right
looking at
now.
well, what most of us would have thought was impossible is this show has the potential of making dragging Star Trek back from the dead. But I think what needs to be done and what Paramount Plus needs to do is they need to get rid of Discovery, because the longer that garbage is around, it's going to continue to damage the Star Trek brand. Just get rid of Picard. You've ruined the next generation. Get rid of Picard. What you and I don't watch the animated shows, but here's what they need to do with Star Trek. And throughout almost all of the 90s, Star Trek did very well with two shows on at the same time. For a couple years, you had TNG and DS9, and then for 5 years, DS9 and Voyager ran concurrently. Enough of this, let's have 16 different shows in a Star Trek expanded universe based on all this stuff. No. Here's what I would do if I were in charge of Paramount Plus. Everything except for Strange New Worlds is canceled. Like, not that we hate you and you're not going to get a job anymore. Just don't make them anymore. Keep Strange New Worlds and have a second show which takes place in the future, say 100 years after, well, I guess Picard would be the end point now, unfortunately. So 100 years after Picard. So you have something that goes back to original Star Trek, and then you have something that's going forward. And actually, one thing, just before we go into one subtle thing that I noticed, but it is noticeable, which I don't know if how many people caught on to it. But the theme, the score for this show, in many instances, even though modernized, it echoes the style of classic Trek. You really
Yeah.
have to listen to it, but it's there.
No, it is. You're right. I think they have actually sampled it and put a new take on it, I think, because you can hear it. You're definitely right. And I actually do like the theme. And I like the Enterprise, the way they do, I think it's very well done. I do. I love the ship. We didn't even cover the ship
Oh, the
fully,
ship,
but the ship
it's the
is brilliant.
Enterprise. Like it is, and this is where I give them credit. Look at the Enterprise from the classic series, and look at the Enterprise that they're using in Strange New Worlds, and then look at Kurtzman's Abomination, or not J.J. Abrams' Abomination. I'm like, if you look at it, like the nacelles are the same.
Yeah.
It's, you know, in terms of form, slight difference in the star drive section, but for the most part, it is the original Enterprise, just modernized. And you can tell they've gone out of their way to find a mix of, something that you can tell, like, this is the Enterprise we were watching 50 plus years ago. Just taking some design aspects. And look at the shuttlecraft. That's another example. Like, well, the back of the shuttlecraft is the same, but look at the inside design. And this is where some of the criticism came from. Like, that's not the shuttlecraft. Look at the control board of the shuttlecraft. Compare it to Galileo 7 or Metamorphosis or any of the shows where any of the episodes on the classic series where you had the shuttlecraft. They have actually kept the basic design elements and they've modernized them. Or look at when the ship goes to red alert, they've kept the red alert sign from the movies because they've incorporated Enterprise, refitted Enterprise components into it as well. So if you look at it, like there's little nods. Even if you look at Spock's quarters, yes, they kind of used the new design, but look at the little trinkets he has in there. They're all from the original show. Look at when they did Amok Spock, which I thought was going to be ridiculous, but I ended up liking it. But look at the beginning. When Amok time, just modernized, same sets. They actually re-recorded the original Star Trek score, like the score for that was originally made for that episode and then reused in many subsequent episodes. They reused that. Like, it's, you have to give them credit. Like, it's modernized, but you can tell that it's people, the individuals that are actually running this show know Star Trek, because there are little design elements that they will throw in that only actual Star Trek fans would catch. And I guarantee the parade of clowns that ran those other two shows would never catch on to.
No, absolutely spot on. I mean, look, as I said, and I see PD Rich said he's a purist. There's nothing wrong with being a purist whatsoever. And I can understand from your point of view. Trust me, I do. I will say though, I don't know, mate. I think you would actually like this show. Yeah, you will have your issues with it. Of course you will. But I think you would actually enjoy this show. I'm not just saying that. But look, as I said, it's up to yourself whether you watch or not. I would never force anybody or tell anybody.
I want to say, PD does make a good point, because this is an objective. This is just subjective the way I look at it. I like the design of the show, but I can still understand why some people would have an issue, as long as you don't say, the show is crap because, the design differences. So it's, it's an aesthetic. Some people will like the design, some people don't. I like the efforts, personally, I like the efforts that have been made to make it look like the original ship. But Star Trek isn't and never has been about design. Star Trek, at least real Star Trek, which looks like it may finally be coming back, it's about the characters. It's about the stories. That's why, the original Star Trek has endured, because obviously those sets would be laughable today, but it's still, there's still a timelessness to that show, even within those ancient sets, because of the stories that were told.
Yeah.
Same thing with, the Next Generation and DS9 both look terribly dated now. And the Next Generation, I think, it looks cooler, but it didn't really do it any favors in terms of sets when they augmented it to HD, because you can actually see just how rickety that set was.
Yeah.
But with the Next Generation, as long as you ignore what's happened with toilet paper, the stories still endure because there were good stories there. DS9 looks dated now because, again, this show's 30 years old. But again, it endures because of the stories it told. Voyager can suck my ass. Sorry, I just had to throw it in. I still, to this day, I hate that show.
And I'll defend it. Sorry.
Yeah, we've had this debate for years. I hate Voyager, not for the reasons I hate disgracery and toilet paper. I was never a fan of Voyager, but it's like it's not so much the sets. It's, are you keeping me engaged? Are you telling me a good story? And it's taken steps before it, and it gets better with each episode.
Yeah.
But Strange New Worlds, it tells stories in the Star Trek way, which hasn't been done since 2005. The emotional elements that were forced into with Disgracery were so fake because it was, oh, poor Michael Burnham.
Yeah.
The emotional elements of the last two episodes, and I'm not going to tell you what happens in either of them, but the last two episodes, it evoked real emotion in the way that Star Trek hasn't done in 17 years. And I know, and Noel knows what I'm talking about. There's one was out of nowhere. The other is an arc that builds through the series. And that's real Star Trek. It makes you think about these things. You're asking questions again. And that's what Star Trek was originally meant to do. It wasn't meant to present, this is one argument, and that's the only way to go, which is what happened with Picard, where it completely doubled and tripled down on the argument. It swung back to what it was.
Yeah.
There might be some preachiness in there, but not so much.
No.
It's literally, and that's made clear in the first episode, which is why I don't think Kurtzman and Goldsman wrote it, because they got that out of the way right away, and that was done intentionally.
Yeah.
When Pike makes that speech about, this is what happens to Earth when two sides can agree. That was done purposely. That was done for Star Trek fans. That was done in a subtle but maybe not so subtle way to say, this is not what you've been subjected to for the past 2 years. We're going back to the way Star Trek used to be.
Yeah.
And even though Kurtzman and Goldsman have writing credits, they didn't write this. There's no way they wrote this.
No.
Even the Kurtzman Trek, there's a specific style of dialogue as if it's written for a fourth grader. The style of dialogue in this is completely different. Like, the style of dialogue is, well, aside from our helmsman and the occasional cringy line from Uhura, the rest of it, this is Star Trek dialogue.
Yeah.
So I'll before we go, I'll echo what Noel said. Don't take our word for it. And Noel and I don't always agree on everything. We have very different takes on that show that I no longer talk about. But I think in this case, we're in agreement. We like this show. I think, I don't want to speak for Noel, but I think to summarize.
No, I do.
We both like the show. We both think it has a lot of potential. I would encourage everyone to watch it. Give your own opinion. Never take what we say as gospel.
Exactly.
I like it, and I can see there are certain things that people might not like about it. And that's but the way we're discussing Strange New Worlds, the debate that we've had with the previous two shows and that other show I used to cover, which shall remain nameless.
Mm-hmm.
This is the other change, which I don't think enough people have noticed, but it was always about politics with the other show, like just real world bullshit. What the kind of discussions I've been having with people about Strange New Worlds is, for the first time in years, legitimate Star Trek questions that doesn't have anything to do about politics, like Mbenga. How is that going to fit in with the original series? How are they going to work, Chapel's story into canon? It's not, you don't like Michael Burnham, so you're an ist. You need to be canceled and thrown out in a field or dumped in a garbage dump or whatever. It's not about that. It's like actual questions about the story. Where is this going to go? How are they going to do this?
Exactly.
And I miss that because we haven't done that in a long time.
I agree. And look, again, they're simple little elements, but it's what gets people watching. But again, I will echo what Chris has said. Don't take our word for it as gospel. But I would encourage anybody to watch it and give it a go. Of course, you will have your own opinions when you watch it, and that's okay. And you know what's good about this is it's been a long time since I've been able to come on here and actually genuinely talk about something that I've really, really liked. It's been a long time, and credit where credit is due for the people that are behind this show. And as Chris said, yeah, Kurtzman might have his name on it, but this is definitely name only because this is written differently to the other shows that
It's a
Kurtzman's directly
legality.
involved in.
I can tell you right now, it's a legality because of the contract that was signed.
Mm.
He's getting paid for it. He's getting his salary. He's getting his name on it. But creatively, the team that worked on Picard and Disgracery is not the team that's working on this. There's no way. Stylistically, it's too different.
Yeah. Yeah. And someone mentioned Robert Moyer Burnett. Yeah, I know he's having a bit of a meltdown about the latest episode. And now Scream Rant or something has done an article which is really bleeding. But look, Robert Moyer is a purist, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. He's very respected within, as far as I'm aware, he's very respected within that community and stuff. So look, I wouldn't dismiss.
Oh, I can see why people like.
Yeah,
I personally
wouldn't dismiss what he's saying.
I can see why people would have issues.
Exactly, but I'm just saying from my point of view, and I am a Star Trek fan, right? But as I said, this show has potential. It's it's gone back to the original concept, in my opinion. As Ballstreck said, these Trek shows have become a platform for preachiness and hammering the audience over the head with some sort of an agenda. This show hasn't done this. And if there is anything in it, as Chris has said, sorry, it's been toned down. It's been toned down. The storytelling is taking center stage here. The character development is taking center stage here, and that's what should be the focus. And this is what this show is doing. Again, there are always going to be people out there that will have different opinions about it. You've got your purists, you've got your people that, go into these shows, haven't got a clue about canon, and it might be amazing to them. And there are people that, canon is important, but I can, not that I can overlook certain things. There's things that do need to be explained. If they explain them, I'm happy with that. Some of the purists won't be because that's just the way it is. But that doesn't. But look, again, as I said, don't take my word for it. Don't even take the other people out there that are talking word for it either. Go and check these out for yourselves. And I wouldn't be listening anyway. I will defend Robert Moyer on this. I wouldn't be listening to anything that comes out of any journalist's mouth from Digital Spy, Screen Rant, or any of those, right? Because they flip flop all the time anyway. Right? They don't have a sincere journalist there, right? They're all bloody activists, every single one of them. We know that. It's been going on for years, right? They don't give opinions or balanced opinions anymore. It's based off their own ideology and their own beliefs, right? So don't be listening to any journalists out there, right? The real people you should be listening to are the fans and people that report on this. And look, some people are not going to like this show. That's fair enough.
Yeah,
but from me and Ballstreck's point of view, we think it's worthy of people checking out, and and that's where I'll actually leave it. That's it. We just wanted to let you know how we felt about it, and I'm delighted that there's actually a show with the Trek name that I can actually get behind, and it's been a long time coming. As Chris has pointed out, it's been a long time coming. And you know what? It's finally good to see something.
And we never thought it would come. Never.
No.
I thought Star Trek was destroyed, especially after how far it got into Picard season 2. I thought Star Trek was done. I thought after that we were never going to get it back. Ever.
Yeah. But as I said, purists, there's Doctor Who purists. I'm probably considered a second Doctor Who. Well, I'm not as extreme, but there are certain things in canon that you want to be respected, and I can understand where some Star Trek fans are coming from. Again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have their opinions. Of course, not everything is great. Not everything is perfect about this show. So there are little niggles that
Yep.
I have as
Oh,
well.
definitely.
But I'm not going to
More than a few.
focus on the little niggles because I think overall, the show to me, look, Trek has been dire for years, right? The first bloody episode, at the end of it, I was like, after watching the first episode, Jesus Christ, did we just get some optimism from Star Trek? That was my first reaction.
I'm like, my God, it's not all dire and depressing. It's like,
Exactly. And again, I don't know where these YouTube really need to sort. I think that they're just bots now at this stage. I don't think that's even a real person. But the YouTube, man, get your act together, will you? Anyway, what we'll do is we will leave it there. Chris, you do have obviously your Twitter account if you want to let people. I have actually put it in the link description along with your YouTube channel. I don't know if you want me to remove it, but
no,
I
you
just
can leave
thought
it in there. It's
I put
my
it in anyway for people if they want to check out your old videos and
yeah
stuff
my
like that.
no, I'm leaving the YouTube channel is now archived. I'm leaving it up. So in terms of what I've got doing going forward, well, I'm retired. Been retired for a while. I did it for a long time, but at some point I don't do streams on my own channel. But I'll go into. There were many reasons as to why I left, and Noel will attest to it. It's something that I've been thinking about for probably 2 or 3 years because I was just tired of it. So I don't do YouTube anymore. At some point, maybe it might be a few years from now, I might finally, do the horror content I wanted to. I just don't have time for it. So in terms of what I've got planned on social media, nothing really. I'll be on the occasional live stream as a guest under the name Cultivated Media. I have a Twitter account where I don't really discuss controversial stuff anymore. My old Twitter account is locked, and it goes under the name Retired Account. So it's completely inactive and is going to stay that way. But Cultivated Media or Twitter horror _ fan 1978. There I mainly just post stuff about movies I'm watching, Blu-rays. If you want to see my puppy, Sky is a regular feature on that. She's my almost 3-month-old black lab who's adorable. So her pictures go up there as well. But yeah, that's all what do I have planned? Regular life, doing things that don't involve the quagmire of misery. That is social media.
That's it. And what you call? I had something in my head there, and it just completely flew out of my head. But I was gonna. What was it? This happened to me the other day as well.
Alzheimer's, dude. You're getting old.
I'm getting old. That's what it is. But yeah, I mean, look, as I said, he's available to do live streams with people out there. So
Yeah,
if you,
although mainly only Saturday afternoons, maybe the occasional Sunday.
yeah,
But yeah, my streaming time is kind of like what we're doing right now. So Saturday afternoons I'll stream. During the week, just my work schedule. I like having my evenings off, and Sunday is my day to unplug from everything. So unless something major happens, I don't see myself streaming on Sundays. But Saturdays, not every Saturday, but I will. Saturday is the most likely thing. Read your emails.
yeah, you have to read your emails. You probably have loads from Lee.
Oh shit! Just give me a sec. Sorry, Lee. I turned off notifications to that account. I suck.
Yeah.
Oh shit, Lee. I am so sorry. I didn't even. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. That's a nice. I'll email you back later. That's me. I got bad for turning off notifications. Everything.
Right. Anyway, I hope everything is all right. But someone says, where have you been? Yeah, I haven't been feeling well over the last couple of weeks, so I haven't been streaming as much as I wanted to. But we did get a member stream done. Myself and Jack had a great conversation, so that's available for members right now. If you haven't become a member, please do. Don't forget, we do have member streams, and we will be doing the RTD era on member streams as well. Also, every Tuesday now at 6:30. That's Tuesday 6:30. The new Who Zone returns with Peter Capaldi era. So if you are on the panel on Sundays and you're still able to make Tuesdays at 6:30. It's starting at 6:30. I'm not starting any later or earlier. It's 6:30. That's the time that I've set. So if you're on the panel and you can make Tuesdays at 6:30, please send me a message on either Twitter or Messenger. Because like Chris, I'm pretty shit at checking emails. So if the best chance to get a reply off me is on those two.
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'll do this for you, Noel, too, while we're off. I'm going to give you my my other email address, my Hotmail.
Not a bother. Yeah.
Is my the problem that I've been having with I've had both these accounts for years, but the problem with my Gmail is everything keeps getting lost in this account because this is the one that's linked to all my dead YouTubes, and for some reason I'm getting spammed to death by Gab, and the spam filter on this is just awful. So things keep getting lost. So I'm going to give you guys both my when you send it to my Hotmail, I will get it because that's my main email now.
Grant, I'll change it over then for when you ever come on the channel. Net, I'll use that one instead when you send it to me. Grant. And Lee says he will be there. He's also asked about classic. Yeah, I'm not bringing. I'm just look right now. I'm just like trying to ease things back. So I'm not gonna start saying I'm gonna do this because I have done that and I haven't done it because I've ended up getting sick. So we'll start off with New Who. We'll just wait until we get a bit of momentum with that, and then I'll see about Classic. But Classic is on hiatus for now, because we still have to finish what, and I still haven't forgotten. It's just as I said, just everything is just over these past couple of months. I just haven't been feeling right. So we still have to finish what Alpha Omega started, which was his Blake 7
Yeah, well, I want
watch
to.
alongs.
I want to finish that too. Although I've actually, well, it was Alpha and Lee that introduced me to Blake 7 after all these years. I can't bring myself to watch it right now, but it's. I think definitely we should get back to it and finish where I think Alpha. I think we left off. I think it was episode 7 or 8. But yeah, I'd like to get back into it.
Yeah, we will. We will when everybody is feeling up to it, because obviously it's still a bit raw, even though it is still a bit raw because it was a bit of a shock, even though some of us were suspecting something bad had happened. It's when it was finally confirmed, though, it was a shock.
Well, I think maybe when we get to when the summer's over in the fall, maybe like September, October, depending on when you do it, because I'm on a completely different schedule now. But even if you want to do that rather than Classic Who on Saturdays, I'd be all up for it.
Yeah, that's what we might do. Actually, I think that'll be a good idea, and to do it around that time as well, it'd be nice. On Comics' Ass is a Tuesday 6:30 in the UK. It is indeed. It is indeed. And Problem Being says Avon lives, Alpha lives.
Yeah.
And Cam's Crash Course says Alpha Omega, hail to you out there. And I can make it if you have room for me. Yeah, look, we'll be bringing on whoever wants to be on that panel. Obviously, it'll be, we're finishing what Alpha started, but it'll be nice to actually reminisce and talk about obviously some of the laughter that we had as well. So yeah, if you want to be part of it again, send me a message and I'll get back to you then when we plan them. I will let you know when we when we decide to start them back up again. But yeah, I hope to get back to some normality now. I know I said that last week, but I'm still kind of icky. I don't know what it is. I honestly think I just have to go and see a doctor, but I haven't moved from the apartment in so long. I've become a bit of a recluse, to be quite honest with you. But maybe I do need to just get checked out to see what's going on, because I've just been feeling
Yeah,
a bit
or
icky. But
find out, or in
or
case.
maybe I just need more fucking exercises, as Cheryl keeps saying. Maybe that's what it is, but I really need to change something radically
Yeah,
because
well, it could be something simple too, like a vitamin deficiency,
could
and
be
especially in the summer, it helps to get outside because you get
exactly
that
to get your
natural
vitamin.
vitamin D.
That's
I've
it.
learned that too. I've gone through times when I've been a recluse, and I've gotten like that too. And now it's like during the summer, I try to get out as much as I can. But actually, the natural sun really does help, and it naturally elevates your mood. But yeah, dude, definitely get that checked out just to be on the safe side. Make
That's
sure
it.
it isn't something else.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, look, we'll as I said, I will try get back to some sort of normality. But I hope you have enjoyed tonight's stream. It was a spur of the moment thing, but it was because myself and Chris were talking about Strange New Worlds on Twitter, and I was kind of thinking, he brought it up. Why don't we talk about it? And I said, you know what, that's a great idea. Because we do get criticized, and I think wrongly anyway. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and praise something that I don't actually like.
Yeah,
I'm not built that
exactly.
way, right? If it's shit, I'm going to call it out, right? It's as simple as that. And that's just the way I'm built. That's the way Chris is built. There's nothing we can do about that. We're just honest, right?
Yeah,
And we've got a fair bit of
brutally.
criticism for it. But, I wanted to show people that we can actually talk about. Well, we've been doing it on the channel anyway with New Who, Watch Alongs, and Classic Who. But people choose to ignore that. So here's a new show that some people have been giving out about. We've given you our opinion, and we've told you what we think about it. And we think it's actually done a decent job so far.
And we're
long
actually
may it
recommending a Star Trek series, which
exactly.
never thought would, like hell has frozen over.
Exactly. It must have.
Noel and Chris are recommending a Star Trek show.
That's it. And yeah, you can actually pin that or do whatever.
And
Clip that shit.
And I got a head because Puppy is stirring, and if I don't take her out right away because she had a nap, she's going to pee.
And I'm going to have some lovely, have to put them in the oven, but Cheryl got me some lovely chicken wraps that I throw in the oven, spicy chicken wraps with chilies and all of that. So that's what I'm going to have now.
I gotta go. She got
not a bother.
But listen, I'll see you soon, everybody. Noel, thank you for having me.
No problem. Awesome. I was going to say that. Thanks for coming on. It's been a long time. Let's do it again soon. But you take care, and take care of Sky. Nice seeing the pictures that you're throwing up, I have to say.
Oh, there's going to be many, my friend. But yeah, I'm going to go and I'll take her out. But we will talk again, and I'll send you guys my other email account, which is not broken like my Gmail. Peace out.
No problem. I'll see you. Have a good one. And to everybody on the channel, thank you for tuning in. And actually, thank you, everybody, because I know I haven't streamed in a while. But the last video that I did about the centenary, thank you, everybody that tuned in to listen to me talk about it, because I think many of the fandom have actually forgotten, because we've been distracted by all the RTD stuff, that there still is a centenary. So I wanted to talk about the rumor that was floating about. So we did a stream on that. So thank you, everybody that tuned in for that. And thank you, everybody that tuned in to watch this stream. I hope you have enjoyed it, and our guest. And we will see you very soon. Listen, enjoy the weekend. Have a good one. And we'll talk to you during the week, folks. Goodbye.